free, feel free to do that. So the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome and thank you for coming. So today I'll be talking about CourseFlow. I don't know exactly who's here. If you do want to introduce yourselves in the chat with college and your names, I'll have a look at that a little bit afterwards. But the purpose of today's session is to dig a little deeper for anyone who's been to prior presentations on CourseFlow. Today is geared towards specifically the program level, and the reason we titled it Help Me Help You is it's actually also geared towards PED counselors and designers who are helping faculty design courses. So my Salties, the Salties lead is here also, Liz, if you want to give everyone a wave, and Lorraine from Salties to assist, and Monica Lopez should be in the participants, who's also an important partner on this, so I might toss her some questions. So just for an overview of the day, I'm planning to do a quick overview and recap of the tool, the basic functions and visibility for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. And then I will dive into more of the program level, looking at screenshots and showing what we've done with the program and how it's been useful to us at program level for about 20 minutes, and then planning a sort of live show and tell with Q&A where I can show you different features of the tool from inside the tool. And then we'll wrap up with resources and discussions in the last 10 minutes. So that's the plan. As I'm talking for this first 2025, our IPD helpers will keep track of what's happening in the chat. So if you do have questions, please feel free to post them in the chat as we go, and they will amass them, and then I will be able to answer them afterwards or from within the tool. So I'll dive in. So what is CourseFlow? For those who haven't seen it, it's basically a free cloud-based platform that's been around for several years, but developing and changing rapidly. It's a design tool to help design courses, to give a visual on course design elements, to simplify curricular pedagogy and pedagogical design. So it uses these things called workflows, which there's one here on the right, and basically sort of links together all the different parts of a course design plan and process, and not just course design, but you can go down to, so we have these three levels: the activity or lesson plan level, course level, workflow, and then program. So, and these are sort of nested inside of each other, so you can move around from one level and change levels of granularity from within the program. So what is a workflow? Basically sort of a flow chart with these nodes, and nodes are sort of what's happening at a given place and time. And everything can sort of be expanded down or collapsed, expanded and collapsed. And you have these categories. So here we have preparation, lessons. This is the basic template. Formative assessments. This is a course level and summative, or whatever it might be. This is the standard course level CourseFlow, and then you have time units, which are these rows, the sections, the gray shading, which here is done as week to week, but all of this is modifiable. These are templates that can be changed according to the course. Arrows are optional, and then they can be used to sort of link different parts of the workflow together. And then you have these different views. So here we're looking at the workflow view, but you can also go to the course outcomes view, and then there's some other really useful analytics tools that I will also show. Here we've got the nesting, shows kind of how you can move around from one to the level. This is the program level workflow. So you've got basically in the program level, you've got all the courses that are in the nodes. And if you click on one of the courses to a linked workflow, it will take you to the course level workflow, which is sort of a more detailed version of your course plan that you might have on your course outline. But it can be as detailed or as little detailed as you want or need it to be. And then if need be, and all of this is sort of optional, you can also have a linked workflow for whatever activities are happening during any given activity, or day. So that's kind of what the program and its overview of the program looks like at the 3 levels. So each workflow, and there's a lot of stuff here on the screen, and this is the beauty of the program, is that it holds all of these different pieces together in one place, and you can move around very easily from one part of the program to another. So it's a set of interlinking sort of databases, and each workflow actually contains this visual map, which is the workflow view. And then if you go to the view course outcomes, then you've got all of the course level course outcomes for course. If you're in the program level, then this will be actually the program competencies that you'll see here by clicking on program outcomes. And then in the views, you have these really useful analytics that once everything is inputted into the visual map and the linked learning outcomes, that you end up with the program generates these analytics. And one of the things you see here is the competency grid, but you can, or actually this is a course, yeah, this is a course level course analytics, but you can generate the competency grid, et cetera, et cetera. So I will show you a little more in detail as we go forward here. But just a bit of background, I'm from Physiotherapy Tech. Why did we adopt CourseFlow? We've been using it for a couple of years now. We adopted it in the early stages of our implementation process following program revision. And the reason we decided to do this is we were having difficulty sort of achieving and maintaining curricular alignment in our program. It's a big program, lots of moving parts, lots of shifting teachers, and we needed to kind of have one place to house and hold everything together as we were planning the courses for our new program. And this really gave us a place to be able to design collaboratively because it is a cloud-based platform. You can see here on the right, this is one of our workflows with commenting on it. And the program's even evolved to allow live collaborative editing. And I'll show you that a little later again. And the other thing is just to the data management aspect, to be able to hold together. As we started to work on this implementation process, we realized it can be quite overwhelming. There is a lot of data involved, and keeping track of it all and being able to work on multiple documents and multiple aspects at the same time gets very challenging, and CourseFlow sort of allowed us to hold things all together. So here, I have the overview of a program level workflow. So this is the workflow view, which is basically sort of a container for all of the courses. So this is our whole program. And if I would scroll down, this is a screenshot, so I can't, but you would see all of the courses from the whole program. So you'll note a few things. If you hover, you'll get all the competencies that are assigned to any given course. You see them kind of in the little number next to the nodes. And if you hover over those, they'll actually pop up. If you want to see them, fully fleshed out and actually, make them link, you can actually go to the edit competencies view, and then you'll see all of the competencies for the whole program there. So a couple other things to know. We do include our gen ed courses. We're a technical program. But the out of sight, out of mind adage, we like to keep them here. It helps keep our students overview kind of their workload in our minds. Columns are customizable. Obviously, we set this up according to sort of themes in the program. So this is very specific to whatever program is there, but you can see here we have clinical education, and we have orthopedics, we have different sort of themes happening. We've included ponderations in the title, again, to keep workload in our minds, to remember what our students are doing. And the course hours, this is generated by the program. This is built in. So yeah, and there's more going on, but I'll show you from inside the tool what all the different buttons can do. But the beautiful part of this is being able to cut up the data differently and view it and look at the data in different ways. And so, you know, if you move from the workflow view to the course outcomes, here you can always kind of find your way back. So, you know, I say that all clicks lead back to the competency in CourseFlow. So if you keep, you know, clicking backwards, you can make your way back to what each element of each curricular element is linked to, which competency it is linked to. So again, here, if I hover, these are the course outcomes. If anyone was in Phoebe's talk yesterday, she spoke about the difference between a course level outcome and a competency. Here's where you can see the links between those two. So if you, when I'm in this view, I can actually see the program competencies and I can make the link between the two levels. So the other, and then once you've entered both of those two views, then the program will generate these really useful analytic tools. So again, this is a screenshot, but you can see this is the competency grid that's here, and there are much, you know, also more interesting and useful analytics, and you can toggle to organize the information differently and to view it differently. So why is all of this useful? So Mr. Potato Head shows us what a sort of unaligned course and program looks like. And for those in technical programs, you'll know what this means because it's sort of when the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, or, you know, there's maybe a duplication that two teachers are teaching the same thing in the same way across two different courses, or there's a gap. You know, in our first year, there's a famous story in our program that we sort of forgot quads. We thought that one teacher thought it was being taught in the upper in the hip, and the other one thought it was being taught in the knee, and it ended up sort of almost. And don't worry, that cohort, we caught the problem and taught them quads, but it just goes to show that you can end up with these curricular gaps or duplications if your program is not aligned within a course or within the whole program. So so we want to have Mr. Potato Head look like he does here on the right, with all the parts in the right place, which is harder than it looks. So how does CourseFlow help with this? One of the things it does is makes the 3 pillars of alignment that any PED counselors in the room know about, makes them much more concrete, because it gives you these visualizations and you can do kind of audits and checks. So here's one example. I'm going to move this bar over so it's not interfering here. In the analytics view for a course level flow, if I grab one of the learning outcomes and click on that, it's going to generate this for the course, showing me where all of this, where that learning outcome shows up. So how do the students interact with the content associated with that learning outcome? How is that knowledge applied, or how is that skill practiced in the lab or the lecture? What is the student doing with that knowledge to become familiar with it? I'll just move you guys over here. And then where is it assessed? And then well, what will they actually do with that knowledge and skill? So that's the learning outcome. I need to move my arrow there, but and then make this thing disappear. So this is another view, another analytics that allows you to sort of check the summative assessment. So you can see now you've got all of the learning outcomes, and this is kind of zoomed way out, but you can zoom in and see what's going on here. But we've got one learning outcome referred to terms of laterality, bone markings, relationship, and comparison. This is one of our course level learning outcomes for this whole course that you're seeing all of the analytics for here. And if you go across, you can see that because of the color coding of the columns, that everywhere in blue is where students are interacting with content related to that learning outcome, sorry. And then in yellow, you've got learning activities where the students are practicing applying that knowledge. And then red is summative assessments. And there are formative assessments going on probably with that learning outcome as well, you know, and feedback, etc. But basically you see it all. And then you can see these two activities. These are actually our learning. These are our summative assessments for the course. You can, I know looking at them is way zoomed out, so I can't read it, but I know looking at them that this is the lab exam and the final theory exam, because all of the dots tell me that all of these learning outcomes are being assessed in these two assessment tasks. I did see a hand up, so do feel free to jump in if there's something that otherwise I'm probably in about 5 minutes, I will come back to the group and be able to answer questions. And I do have all this stuff open live, so I'll be able to show you really well from there. So here, one other thing is really useful for alignment is that it allows you to find curricular gaps. So that misaligned potato head that I was showing, this is kind of what that looks like in CourseFlow, is if once you generate your analytics tools, every row basically should have at least one tick box in each of the sections to say, okay, students, I actually taught this thing. The students have interacted with the content in some way. There's been some activity to practice applying that knowledge, and then it's been assessed. So, you know, this is to kind of show that you fulfilled your contract, you know, with the learning outcomes at the beginning of the term. So here you can see that these two places where I've identified the red circles is because these elements have not been tagged to any learning outcome. So they're sort of orphaned. So this is identifying for us a problem that either this learning outcome or this content doesn't really belong in this course. It needs to find a home in a different course, or that we've forgotten something there's a learning outcome that we're missing that we need to add to the course, etc. So, so really useful to ensure course alignment, these analytics tools. This is another analytics tool where you can look at toggling for the competencies of the program. And you can look at, so here I've got analyze the profession. It's one of our lowest level competencies. And if you click on it, it will generate a sort of page of where you can see all of the courses that competencies have been assigned to, and then all of the course level learning outcomes that have been drafted for each of those courses. So it gives you a really nice overview of how that competency has been developed over the different courses that it's assigned to. So this is another analytics tool, and I know it's a lot of information, so bear with me. I will show you this stuff live. It's not as complicated once you kind of see it in action. But the vertical alignment you can do here as well. So it's kind of the same thing as we saw in this one, except now I've got basically this tool that allows me almost like a shopping compare and select and compare, where I'm able to look at all my courses from the program side by side. And basically what it does is it collapses down the columns, or it allows you to look at just the learning outcomes. So here I've got the learning outcomes for 3 different courses in kind of the same stream that might share a competency. So I'm able to compare how that competency has been expressed in the 3 different levels of course that's associated with the competency. So now, and this is new, I tried it yesterday, it works beautifully, that I can actually, if I realize, oh, this competency, this course outcome is actually too high level for this particular course, I can drag it over to a higher level course. And I did it yesterday, literally. So we're using this actively to track changes as we go through. Now we're into the 2nd cohort of our implementation. And it's I don't see how we would have functioned without this. So moving along, horizontal alignment. This allows us to, and I'll show you again, this in action, allows us to see, this is the toggle, the same tool that you just saw on the last screen, but it's toggled to the workflow views. And what it does is it collapses the columns into all of one. And this is where the color coding gets really useful, because we have common color coding across the program. So you can see that, for instance, if I want to make sure that, I know that they're learning the upper body muscles in weeks, 2 to 5, I need to make sure that over here in weeks, I'm not teaching them range of motion for the shoulder in week 2. So it allows us to see the alignment of courses throughout the term, but also the assessment load. We can see in red, that's where our main assessments are for the course. So we can see if we've, sort of we're doing too much assessment, or if they've got 4 group presentations due the same week, or whatever it is. So are things well balanced and aligned over the term? So how is this helpful for us in terms of collaborative design? This is when we started the implementation process. This is how I saw it. I know it probably most of people in the room hopefully are familiar with the backward design. Again, Phoebe talked about this really nicely yesterday. You start with the end in mind, figure out how you're going to assess that, and then how are you going to get the students to how are you going to get the students there? So and then do that 26 times, put it all in nice tables, and whoop, voila, finished. And you have a brand new program. That's how I envisioned all of that starting. And this is more what it ends up looking like. And we're still in it 2 years later. There's a lot of moving parts, and keeping track of those moving parts and the collaborative design process is really challenging. So you need a tool kind of to hold all those bits together and allow you to move easily from one part to another and see different parts in different ways. One thing that I wasn't expecting and didn't necessarily know would be such a useful feature of the tool is this kind of idea of collaborative visioning. So this is the vision of our approach to our new program that my colleagues came up with. But as we started our implementation process, we sort of realized that we didn't all necessarily see this in the same way. What does case-based learning really look like? And once we started to discuss, what does that look like? Having these course, these workflows, and having to decide, well, what are the categories? What are the units going to look like? What is this course concretely going to look like? Allowed us to sort of have this visual artifact of what our shared vision looked like. So, so you can kind of see this in action here, and with live editing and commenting, it's really a brilliant place to be able to have those discussions. A couple of other things, administrative needs. This is an export of a course framework, or plan cadre, or whatever different colleges call it, but the sort of administrative requirement for each course to have this sort of high level plan. This is what CourseFlow will generate, and there's different exports at the different levels, and you can have these visualizations that are exported to Excel. And
sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
Kathy.
Yeah.
Sorry, my voice. We're at 9:25. You told me to.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'm almost finished this part, so
Perfect.
and then I'll stop sharing for a second, check in with the chat, and then kind of dive into some live demo. So yeah. But basically, this is sort of a summary of why we like the tool. And the tool does continue to evolve over the past 2 years. It's changed dramatically. Anyone who saw the tool 2 or 3 years ago and said, looks interesting, but didn't end up picking it up might be swayed to give it another try. But just to give kind of a quick overview, transparency, student load, being able to see everything in one place, kind of it's an empathy builder that we get to see our students' workload kind of overview in one place is really important when we're thinking about student workload and trying to manage that. Being able to collaborate live, online, tracking, keeping track of all this data, which kind of leads into this third one, reducing the cognitive load. So being able to hold all those moving parts, not all in here, but being able to upload or offload some of that into the tool. Communication, onboarding new teachers. I didn't talk a lot about this, but it's been a useful aspect of the tool is being able to bring in new teachers can have this overview of the course to see where the programs to see where their course fits into the program, and rather than just a pile of PowerPoints, as onboarding to the new course or access to Moodle, if they have this visualization of how all the pieces fit together in the course and where the course fits into the global implementation for the term and for the program. And alignment I've talked about fairly in detail, so I won't go back into that. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can kind of see everyone and touch base with the chat, and then I will dive into some live demos. So
Eloise had a question for you, I believe.
yes.
Hi, Kathy, it's Elsa.
Hi.
I had a bit of a more detailed question, which I realized maybe it was a question for another time. But what I really want to know is, what was the buy-in from your colleagues? You seem to have, and I know from family experience, a very passionate, implemented, interested, participative program, and it's small and it's new. So, I mean, that can have some difficulties, but I think for implementing a new tool like this, it kind of works in your favor. So what was participation like? Was it hard to get used to functioning with it, collaborating, getting input from teachers? So maybe just a quick thought about that.
Yeah, and then that's ongoing. Like we're still, we have new teachers, so being onboarded to the tool. But and it was, yes, easier for our program in a way because like you said, we are sort of smaller and a very motivated, knowledgeable bunch. But we also dealt with a brand new tool that was evolving and changing. And I think that new groups coming into using the tool now, it's a leaner, cleaner, more efficient. It's the tool has come really a long way. And once the data is into the tool, it's not very hard to use. It looks like a lot to see, but it's really quite easy to use. And newer teachers who, once they've had 5 minutes to play around in a quick show and tell. Go ahead, Monica. I'm going to jump into some screen sharing and kind of show you some stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to take time away from your screen sharing, but I just want to say that as a PED counselor who has accompanied a number of programs in the course design stage, which is what Kathy talked about, like program alignment, I have to say that buying of the use of other tools that are just like Word documents is not any easier because the process itself is quite complex. So complexity, and it's quite time consuming. And that, of course, you get resistance from teachers because it's a lot of work and it's also change and it's having to let go of some of the way they were doing their courses and really embracing the new competencies. So I would say that the tool itself, as complex as it looks today, makes a very complex process a lot simpler. You might not see it today, but like when you want to do it right, as the Physiotech program tried to do it, and I think is achieving it, the tool really has many affordances that Kathy has described well. But when you start using it, or when you're actually doing it for your own program, you realize the power of the database behind this, as opposed to separate Word documents where you have to kind of keep it all together in your head.
Yeah, I can say from, you know, from using the tool and having kind of been on the curriculum committee, like our challenges with curricular alignment didn't start at program revision implementation. We actually sought a revision because our program, the design of the program didn't allow us to achieve proper alignment. And so the tool, you know, having functioned without it and having and now having it, it makes things easier to keep track of, and sort of, you know, the cognitive overload, the picture of the teacher with all the crazy, you know, exploding brain, that's real. And I find that CourseFlow makes it easier because it does a lot of that heavy lifting in terms of holding data and remembering, you know, tracking changes, etc. And I'll show you that in action because we're using it to do that specifically now. So I kind of glanced at the questions that I saw in the chat. Please feel free to, because I don't see the chat as I've got this open, but feel free to just open your mic and ask a question. Yeah.
Yeah, Queen, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that just the way like the interface is organized, it kind of labels the different elements of a program revision to in a way that what I mean is that when you're working with like an open, like, well, just like a folder or a SharePoint or something, you have to put in the title. This is the program matrix, or this is the exit profile. Whereas in CourseFlow, everything is already labeled. So it's, although it's complex, you know, it's complex for a reason, but everything is already, you don't have to build like the program revision palace, if you know, mental palace, if you know what I mean. It's already there. It's kind of scaffolded. So it's kind of like what Monica was just saying in a way.
Yeah. It's just, you just have to fill in the blanks. It's like the template. The program is the template. And then once your data is in there, you know, it looks like a lot to outsiders, but to people who know the program, it's brilliant because all the pieces are all held together. So so this is the tool live, and feel free to, you know, just open your mics, and you know, if you have a question with something that's there, I will try and open. I have the chat here, so but you know, there's assistance from Saltese, both for onboarding and for inputting data. But basically you have kind of all the courses in the program here. I'll show you some of the features that I talked about. If you hover over the competencies, the little number here, you see the competencies, and you can open those up or hide them. Editing this, what's in these nodes is through this tiny, this sort of smaller little, or this sidebar here that is collapsible. There's a lot of screen real estate features that have actually come a long way since the beginning of the program, but so that you can see everything that you need to see on the screen. So, but basically then from here, you click visit workflow to get to a course, or that maybe I'll show you a few more things here. Well, so I've named these here and with these cute icons, but these are the thematic elements of the program. And then if I go click here, and you've got the competencies all here. And this does need to be inputted, but again, once it's there forever. We haven't touched this in a year and a half, and you know, it's easy to add. And it's easy to edit. And I did that by accident, so I'm going to take it off. What else? And then the other views is those two analytics and grid tables. And sometimes these take a second to load. It's pretty quick now. And the nice thing is that I can toggle and look at things differently. So here I've got the grid organized by time, but I can, sorry, by category. I can go by time here. So that's the different terms, and then the categories, the different course types. So I can toggle back and forth, and it's giving me all of the assignments of the different parts of the program. So, and then if I kind of go back to the workflow view, and I click on one of the courses, and I'll grab a course that I teach because I'm familiar with it, and open that up, and then you've got a course, and unless there's again, feel free to hop on with questions, unless there, because I think maybe the next thing is, because I think to show you kind of how easy it is to do, I'll maybe do like 2 minutes of kind of live editing, just to show you what that looks like, to see some of the features really quick, and then I'll hop out to just overview and questions for the last 5 minutes. So so basically the interface, this is a course level workflow, sorry. So anything that you hover over, you're always going to get this little box right here. So you've got the plus, which basically adds a row. So if I hit the plus, it gives me another week here. So this is an empty week, and I can move this around. So I can drag and drop that. So now I've put that into the first section, and I can populate this week. So if this course wasn't populated, this is all you would see when you started, and maybe 4 template columns. Now you can change these. I've added to my own here. So, and any element that you hover over, you see those 4 little icons, and one is an insert below,
Kathy?
which is basically, yep.
There are two hands raised, mine being
Oh,
one of
okay.
them.
Yep.
I don't know who the other person is because I can't see it. I just see there's another hand. Maybe the other person wants to go first. I don't know who you are.
Yeah,
Kim's
the other
from,
person
Dawson
is
College.
Kim Webb.
Kim.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, Kim, go ahead, and then I'll
Okay, great.
make a
Hi,
comment.
Kathy.
Hi, Kim.
Great presentation. I have a design question for you.
Yes.
When you're in the workflow view, I noticed, because in our case, we're going to have a lot of courses where all the arrows are just going to overlap,
all
and then
directions?
it'll become like really hard to read. Do you have more control on the arrows between courses?
Absolutely. And you can get rid of them. You can show them or not show them. So here I've just added one.
Yeah.
I don't usually put the arrows until I need them, and then you decide how much and how you use them. So they're not automatically you know, they're not automatically put in to the workflows, because yeah, if you put too many arrows, then they all end up. So you need to decide, you know, what the arrows are really being used for, to build links. But you know, yeah, good
Okay,
question.
thanks.
Yeah, and they're easy to get rid of. So once you know, if I click on this, and then I can just delete it. So that's that. So I'll and Liz, did you want to ask your question as well then?
Yeah, I didn't want to ask a question. I wanted to make a statement.
Yeah.
One of the things that Kathy is showing, what you were showing, Kathy, and I wanted to bring this out as a really important feature of CourseFlow. CourseFlow is not meant to be just a program tool. It's meant to also, as Kathy mentioned, it's meant to start discussions within your department. You know, and the categories, the things that we're talking about at the top, Kathy, if you can just point back to them, the categories. Surprisingly, that is one of the major conversations you're going to have. And that kind of conversation, so Saltese has been working with a couple of people as well individually in addition to people like Monica, our champions. And what we're realizing is teachers don't always have a sense of what are the big themes. They don't always have a sense of, at least not a collective sense of what are the big kinds of things that they're doing, both in their individual courses as well as across the program, especially for new teachers who are joining your program. And they may not have a sense of, I think yesterday was an interesting conversation when Phoebe mentioned that with the new teacher career, training or whatever, I can't remember the exact name of the session, but sometimes teachers don't know that there is a clear sense of program, and this is a way to have that kind of conversation, and especially that level of category. So it sounds like, oh, she has categories. Well, you're the ones who create the categories. And that's the conversation that all of you as a program need to have. And this is where lots of really good conversations are happening.
So just to show you how easy, I'm gonna turn off my screen share in a second, but just to show you kind of how easy it is to do, because I think once you see everything done, it looks like it was hard, but I just populated a week, added a column, added a bunch of, all of the things that I want to do. And then, filling in the blanks is really, really easy especially if you already have the course built. So I kind of showed what that looks like. So it's really not a barrier. And tagging the learning outcomes to the individual nodes is also really easy to do. So I'm going to stop my screen share because we're pretty much out of time. And if there's any last questions, I don't see a hand up, or comments.
No, I think Kim had the hands, but I think it was from before, no? Yeah.
Yeah, or any questions that I've missed.
Yeah, it's sorry, now I put down my hand. But I just want to make a suggestion for the nurse who, I think her name was Elsa. Like how do you get people on board? And in my case, in my program, we haven't signed up on CourseFlow yet, but I plan on implementing it in our program. And I think the only way you can get people on board is actually to build the whole thing yourself. Like the categories, the courses, you start, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start building the whole thing. I'm going to put the whole program in there. And then you gently introduce them. Like, it's almost like building a pasture, and you're slowly going to bring your flock of sheep in there and say, see how easy it is. And start encouraging them to put their input slowly. I think what makes faculties afraid to start something is the unknown. It's the fear of the unknown and the fear of the unknown of the workload. Like, they look at this CourseFlow and they could say, oh my God, that's a lot of work. I don't have time for this. So yeah, I think this is something that I think I have no choice but to build it myself so that my colleagues could be encouraged to participate in there. So Kathy, that was a great presentation. It made me want to sign up. I just signed up. So and if ever I have questions, I'll come by your office.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Saltese is there for help. Monica has her hand up. I know we have to shut down here. If you want to have the last word, Monica.
Sorry, I just want to say, yeah, just to echo what Kim was saying, we're trying to build a strategy. Hand in hand with Saltese, with the work of our office OAD, but there's a similar office of academic development in all colleges, and with faculty, of course. This takes buying from all and support from all piece parts, basically. So setting up the competencies and the program initially, it could be a collaboration between Saltese, between us, and between the program. In onboarding the teachers, also a collaboration. And you're right, Kim, it takes all those people, but it takes time. And the more support we give to the teachers who ultimately are the users of this tool or need to be the users, the easier it gets and the more buy-in you get from your own department. Like presenting this tool as a blank, nothing populated is like a killer right there. It has to be presented with something that's familiar to them, with a specific example of a course that someone has developed, with an understanding how much time it took to do that. And I think, Kim, you probably have already talked to Carlos about that, because Carlos is kind of building that process with also the collaboration with Einad and myself and Liz and the wholesale field team. And you guys are kind of like a model as to how we can do that for the future for other programs. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the great presentation. I think it's very relevant to our students who will feel that they're not taking isolated courses. So if we make sure that the alignment is there for everybody, we keep promoting the college approach for for our colleges. All the material will be available on our team, and the recording as well. So thank you, Kathy. Thank you, all the excellent team. Thanks, Altis.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you.
Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, IPD.
Thank you.
Thanks, IPD. Thank you, Liz. Thanks.